Hello, everyone. Welcome back to James Bond Bitcoin Live. Today we have a guest. Usually I do Wednesdays and Sundays, but our guest here wanted to come on tonight, so we got him on. But let me first introduce Ozzy because he's kind of like our co-guest here. Ozzy, say say hello.
What's up, everybody? I'm Ozzy The BS Filter. If you haven't seen, if you don't know me, I'm helped start the show. Actually, co-guest. Thank you very much, James.
Excellent. And then our guest here is Luke from Deep Healing Space. Luke, please tell us about
How's it
yourself.
going, everyone? My name is Luke. How I originally got invited on the show was actually, I think you probably saw my crypto videos. And so my channel, I do talk about crypto and investing, but my main focus is basically teaching people how to heal themselves. So I'm basically sort of, you can think of me like a nutritionist in some senses. I mostly just teach people how to heal themselves using hair mineral analysis. So what I have people do is they cut off pieces of their hair and they mail it to a lab. I then see the results, and then I basically set up people with healing programs based off the results. So it's like a certain dietary regimen, certain nutritional supplements, certain lifestyle modifications, and things like that. And then I basically help people heal themselves from certain ailments or just feel better or whatever it is they may come to me for. The focus of the channel is actually teaching that science. So what I teach is something called nutritional balancing science, and this is the science of how minerals work in the body, how you can use mineral science to shift the chemistry of the body, how the glands work, your adrenals and your thyroid, the correct sorts of diet people should be eating, the sort of minerals that the bodies are lacking in, and things like that, and how this actual science works to heal the bodies. And that's the main thing that I teach.
Okay, excellent. And of course, I'm James Bond here. I host this channel, and I try to get some interesting people. And I have to admit, talking to you in the pre-show, you are very interesting, Luke. I'll just go ahead and focus on you since you're our special guest here. So just tell people how you got into the cryptocurrency space, because I'm specifically kind of talking about that, but we'll get into your health stuff a little bit later. Just how you got into it and what drew you into Bitcoin, or I believe first time I saw one of your videos, you were doing a Ethereum kind of educational video.
Right, right. Well, from a young age, I've always been sort of rebellious. You know, when I was young, like in 2008, when I was just exiting high school, I voted for Ron Paul. And so I was always really into like libertarian sort of philosophies and Austrian economics, like sound money. Like from a young age, I like learned about the Federal Reserve. I read like The Creature from Jekyll Island, which is a fantastic book you should all be reading. It basically talks about how the Federal Reserve was created, and how our money and banking system currently works. So I was always really into that sort of stuff. And then how I got into crypto was I was already buying gold and silver. So I run this nutrition business that I've told you guys about, and I make an income. That's my main source of income. I have cash to invest in. I understand. I understand economics and stuff like that, and I knew that. I don't want to put it in a 401k or something like that because of the debt situation. The Western nations are so far into debt. So I was never going to be your typical mutual fund investor or something like that. And so I was buying a lot of gold and silver and researching other sorts of different investments. And I actually came across, I would watch or listen to, I should say, a lot of Joe Rogan's podcasts. And I actually came across Bitcoin listening to the Joe Rogan podcast when he had Andreas Antonopoulos on. And I imagine you're familiar with Andreas Antonopoulos, James, right?
Yes, I've never had a chance to meet him, and maybe one day I'll reach out to him to be on this show. But please continue.
Yeah. So Andreas Antonopoulos is he's one of the main figureheads, I would say, in like the crypto space and like Bitcoin. He goes around the world and just gives Bitcoin talks, and He just teaches people about Bitcoin and blockchain technology and stuff like that. And he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He's actually been on the podcast 3 times now, but I think it was like the second time he had been on when I first listened to him. And I was like, wow, this sounds really, really interesting. This is something I got to check out. And so, yeah, I just kind of went down the rabbit hole. A lot of hours on Reddit, a lot of hours on YouTube learning about Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, watching documentaries on it, watching people talk about Bitcoin. Then I made a Coinbase account. I bought a little bit of Bitcoin. I played around with it. I learned more about Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies. Then I pushed more and more money into it as I felt more secure in it. And I knew how to, secure my own coins, and I felt more secure that my coins were secure and stuff like that. And yeah, I've just been riding it ever since.
Okay.
Fantastic sort of thing. I consider myself a pretty intuitive person. I follow my intuition about stuff. When I discovered the healing stuff that I do now, I intuitively knew that it was the truth. And I just went full deep into it, just dove into the deep end. Same thing with Bitcoin. I understood at pretty quickly that this was the world.
Right, and I know we talked a little bit about before, but tell us how you think Bitcoin is good money, and how good money is going to drive out bad money. Because what you said was kind of interesting. I think you should share it with the audience.
So if you understand, there's certain economic principles, and you have to realize that there's actually economic truth. Like we don't get taught there's actual truth, right? We don't get taught in the school system. We get taught a lot of lies in the public school system in today's world, or we get taught that there is no truth, or it's all relative and things like that. But there's actually, if you actually understand economics, there's economic truth, right? And so one thing that's economic truth is that good money pushes out bad money. And so money has gone through phases, right? So it used to be like we were cavemen and we were bartering, and we would barter some food for a shelter, or whatever we were bartering for, okay? And then there was another leap in money, right? And we had gold and silver coins, okay? And so we would trade gold and silver coins. And gold and silver coins are better because you can have more wealth in a gold coin than typically to barter. It's better than bartering because it's a unit of value everyone recognizes, and you can buy anything you need with this unit of exchange, right? They're also portable and things like that, okay? And then we came up with even better money, and that was paper currencies that were backed by gold and silver, okay? And so you could just basically, instead of carrying around a bunch of gold coins, you carry around a bill, and that certificate or bill represented gold in a vault that was stored in the bank for you. And you could take it anywhere you went, and everyone would accept it. You could redeem it for gold anytime you wanted, okay? And that was another leap, okay? And then now we have like credit cards and apps on our smartphones, right? And so I can carry around my credit card or an app on my smartphone, and I can carry millions of dollars that way. And so Bitcoin is basically the best of both worlds. It has certain properties of gold, and that it's limited in value, so there can only be 21 million Bitcoins ever. Okay, so it's probably the most important property of money is scarcity. Okay, you can't use leaves or gravel as money, right? It's not scarce enough. Okay, and it also has properties of like credit cards and stuff like that, and that I can carry around $100 million worth of Bitcoin on my smartphone, and I can send it to anyone in the world. Can stop me. No one knows how much I own. No one can stop the transaction from happening, and I can send it instantly, for 5 cents or however much it costs. Okay. And so I understood that Bitcoin's actually, if you think about it, is the best money that's ever existed. It actually even has a lot of benefits over gold, right? Government can confiscate your gold. I can't carry, $100 million of gold in my smartphone securely, right? And so also I understood that Bitcoin is also unstoppable. Okay, so if Bitcoin is unstoppable, and it's better money than paper currencies, then we can come to the conclusion that Bitcoin will eventually push out all paper currencies out of the market. and Bitcoin will actually lead to basically the destruction of paper currencies and central banks.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that too. How real do you think that is? That Bitcoin can drive out? You're talking about fiat currency as in government-backed currency.
What's already happening?
And
How much has Bitcoin gone up since the dollar and
well,
since it's been?
yeah, it's gone up. It's gone up a lot. But how would you? How would it happen? I've always wondered that. I've heard that myself, but I've always wondered how would that happen. And then, Ozzy, if
What happens?
anytime you want to chime in, you could just chime in. But go ahead, Luke.
Well, it happens in stages. You know what I mean? These things don't happen overnight. So Bitcoin used to be worth, fractions of a penny. Now it's worth $3,000, and it has billions of dollars worth of liquidity, and there's whole businesses being built on it, and there's numerous exchanges with lots more liquidity than there used to be. It's being used more for commerce, and every day it happens more and more. So you can think of it like the paper and debt markets are crashing. They're already crashing, okay? People don't realize the dollar was down 10%. The US dollar is down 10% since January. So a lot of people get worked up about like the stock market has gone up since Trump got elected. The stock market's gone up about 11 to 12%. And the dollar has gone down 10%. That means if you have your money in the stock market, you've actually made about 1% since January. Okay? And so the paper currencies are already collapsing, and they're collapsing especially against the cryptocurrencies, especially like Bitcoin. Okay? And this is just it's happening in stages. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't wake up one day and then, oh, everyone's using Bitcoin and there's no more dollars. No one's using the US dollar anymore. This is playing out. It's been playing out. This is a very long cycle we're going through, and it's going to be accelerating through the next couple years.
Okay. What do you think Bitcoin is being used for now? I mean, you mentioned if it's a currency, and then some degree it is because people are trading it for, well, I trade it for money, but some people trade it for actual goods and service. But what kind of goods and services do you think it's being used for now?
Well, you can buy stuff online with it. I mean, I think the first use case for actual purchasing stuff was probably illegal things off of things like Alphabet in the dark market. So people were buying drugs and guns with it and stuff like that. Bad name. I've used it for Purse. If any of you guys want to check out purse.io, so how Purse works is people like in India and stuff, they get paid and basically Amazon store credits. And they can't really use Amazon because they live in India or somewhere else, and they can't really get things shipped to them cheaply, and so they rather buy Bitcoin. And so Purse kind of works as an exchange where people are selling the Amazon store credits for Bitcoin. And then using that sort of mechanism, you can buy stuff off of Amazon for like 10 to 20% off. So basically what happens is you're paying someone to order something for you on Amazon, and you're giving them Bitcoin in return. So they get Bitcoin, which they like and they want to hold as an investment, and then you get whatever you want off of Amazon in return.
Okay.
And then the Bitcoin is held in escrow, and then the Bitcoin, it doesn't get released until you confirm that you received your package. So that's just one example. And so you can go buy anything you want on Amazon right now with Bitcoin for 10% cheaper.
All right. All right. So what? Just out of curiosity, what did you buy using Purse?
Oh, just random stuff I needed. Like I bought flashlights. Just random stuff. I don't know what else did I buy.
But for the most part, do you hold on to your Bitcoin for gains, like as gold? Like you see it as a way to build wealth?
Right. So at this time, especially in history, you should avoid holding dollars. You should hold dollars at. You're better off even putting your money in the stock market, right? Because even though I talked about that example, if you had money in the stock market, you still made 1%, and you're still outperforming inflation a little bit. So you're still better off holding stocks because you're at least making 1 to 2% since January instead of losing 10% by holding dollars. You know what I mean?
Right. You're talking about inflation.
Right.
Are you talking specifically about inflation, or are you talking about the currency rates?
Specifically inflation and currency rates. I think the dollar still is stronger than a lot of other paper currencies, but still it has this inflation. And so a lot of people think like if they put their money into a savings account, you know, that's something they should do. I don't think that you should do that, especially this time, because even if you're getting like, you know, the interest rates are so low that if you put your money in a savings account, you're getting like maybe 1%. You know, most savings accounts are like 0.25% now, and you're not even keeping up with inflation. So if you're watching this and you keep your money in a savings account, you're losing money to inflation. It's actually going. You're actually just burning money.
Yeah, to some degree, I agree with you, because if you just hold on to your coins or something, you probably would have made you would have made up for that inflation and then some. So, all right.
And there's lots of things. There's other ways to beat inflation. You just don't want to hold dollars. You know what I mean? You can hold gold. You can hold silver. Even stocks are at least going to keep up with inflation in most cases. You know, cryptocurrencies way outperform inflation. Just real things that have scarcity and real value. So, you know, it's better. You're better off even. Money is better. You know what I mean?
So basically, spend your money for the most part. Ozzy, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Bitcoin, just Bitcoin, not cryptocurrency in general, just Bitcoin, I think is the biggest thing that keeps inflation in check. As they keep printing more and more, as the Bitcoin rises, the more they print, the higher it goes. It does fight inflation. But property, if it's not making an income, probably not the great thing. You want a property that makes income, because taxes is property tax is just like inflation. You're gonna have to keep paying on it. But yeah, he has a strong point there. But precious metals are you can't carry $100 million of precious metals, but like crypto can. But precious metals is also a good place to put it. It also fights inflation a little bit, not much.
Right.
It's heavily manipulated. That's the problem with precious metals.
Yeah. If you two had a choice between precious metals and Bitcoin, like which would you pick? I know, but it seems like both of you. I don't own any gold or silver. I might own some gold, like gold medals, from. I think my mom bought them, like when the Olympics were a long time ago, and she gave them to me. So they're just gold medals from the Olympics. They're not. I didn't win any gold medals,
right.
but you. I know. It looks like Luke, you own gold and silver. Ozzy owns gold and silver. Interestingly enough, now that you both own, which one would you prefer now?
I own only silver now. Silver, I think, is way underpriced compared to gold. Silver is a smaller market, and they are able to manipulate the prices a lot more. You can actually look at how they manipulate the market. You can go into the COMEX, which is like the major exchange, and you can look at the short positions by JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank, and how they manipulate the whole entire silver market. Because how they do it is basically through short selling, and so they basically, there's only so much physical silver on the market, but they're able to make digital derivatives of silver. And so I think there's a lot less silver than people realize compared to gold. And so I do like silver as an investment. If I had to pick one, I would pick crypto, actually.
If silver and gold were not manipulated, then the true value of the dollar would be realized.
Right.
And they absolutely do not want the true value of the dollar being realized. So that's why, but Russia and China know the true value of gold. And that's why they're the biggest buyers on the market right now. Because sooner or later, they're not going to be able to control that manipulation. They're not going to, and the true value is going to be realized. But I wouldn't, that's a tough question for me, because you know how much I hold in precious metals, James. I'm heavy into it, and I would split, and I'm split between both. I think I'm 60% precious metals, 40% crypto. between those two. That's how I have them split, I think. If not, 65-35, I think. I have
my original thing was I was going to be half silver, half crypto, but then crypto's outperformed silver so much. I hold probably like 80% crypto, 20% silver right now.
Well, the problem is with crypto. Here's the problem with crypto. The volatility for someone that cannot afford a crash is not a place for him right now. Like, for example, if I only had $5,000 in my life savings, that's it, and I'm living paycheck to paycheck, I would not tell that person to go put that in Bitcoin.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I would prefer him to put it into gold. But someone in my case, I can afford to take a hit and gamble. But I do not believe Bitcoin is a gamble. But it is enough of a gamble for someone that only has 5,000 to his name not to put all of it in there.
Right. And what Ozzy said also about you buy real estate, you want to produce a rental income. I think actually in most cases, even if you're actually better off renting a house than buying a house, unless you're going to buy it with cash outright, just because of upkeep on the house and stuff like that. And I think real estate right now is also in a bubble, which will pop, along with the debt markets and stuff like that. And you said an interesting thing too, James. Is like, as you were saying, so you asked me if I was telling everyone that they should spend all their money. Well, you've actually kind of been tricked. Okay, so U.S. dollars aren't actual money. So gold and silver are money. Those are actually currency. And so it's kind of a play on words.
Okay, but money is currency, or the U.S. dollar is currency. But that's what we use a lot of. Should we be, as soon as we get it, should we be spending it, like buying gold, buying silver, buying crypto?
Buying gold is not spending.
Yeah.
Then what is the act of spending then?
Right. So people have kind of been tricked.
Are we trading?
If you buy gold and silver, you're spending your money. You're actually getting real money. You're actually using your currency to get real money, because historically gold and silver are money, and then the paper that we use now is not. It's not backed by anything. It's not actually money. It's just a debt instrument.
Look, let me tell you how I look at it. Mother Earth, which I love, gave you three things. It gave you shelter, it gave you food, and it gave you money. But in order to be uber rich, owning all the gold in the world wouldn't help you. So you have to make a currency. So they made the dollar. And that's the only purpose for the dollar, is because they need to be able to spend more than there is in gold. The dollar, I wouldn't call it spending when you buy gold or silver as an investment. I would call it spending when you go and you, like me, I just went on a 2-month vacation and fucked off 40 or 50 grand. That's spending. But when you go buy an actual gold bar for $20 over spot, that's a great investment. You're not spending your money, but you should take that. You should not leave your extra money in the bank. No, I would not tell anyone to leave their money in the bank. Leave some, for like me, I have a certain amount of fiat I have to leave for my businesses, but any extra money that I do not need anymore, that's going into something.
Okay, Ozzy, let me ask you this, since we're on the subject of precious metals. How would you use your money, specifically silver or gold? How would you use that eventually?
Well, I started buying gold back in early 2000s. I bought a bunch, and I just, with extra money I had. In 2011, 2010, it blew up to $2,000. So I sold it. I sold all of it, every ounce I had. I took that money and I bought an apartment building with it. And then when that went up, I sold that and I cashed out of that. I use it. It's a purely an investment, a hedge. a hedge against my wealth. So if anything happens to the economy, I stay wealthy. That's all it's for.
Okay, so you bought your gold and then you sold your gold for
Yeah.
currency, and then used the currency to buy property.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
And that's how it's basically being used right now today.
And then the property went up. I sold that. Gold had gotten back down, and now I bought up the gold again.
Okay.
I was able to buy a lot more gold than I originally had because I cycled it. I recycled it properly.
Okay, so you gone from currency to gold, back to currency, and then to a property, and then back to currency again, and then gold.
Yes.
Okay. So the currency was just a means to transfer the value between the two different assets of property and gold.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'm continually doing that now. As soon as gold, and I believe the next high for gold is going to be 2,500, not 2,000 like it reached in 11. So that's my next goal is 2,500. At 2,500, I will sell all of it. And if gold hits 2,500, that means properties are going to be shit, stocks are going to be shit. So, and I'll have about $400,000 or $500,000 in gold at that time from what I own now. So I'll split that between property and some stocks.
Okay, very very good. How about you, Luke? How would you spend or use your silver?
Well, it's
because
exactly
if you're using it probably as a store of value, or maybe as an
describing. You want to use dollars as a sort of thing to pay your rent and to buy other things. If you're going to sell an asset and buy another asset, you kind of have to usually now in the middle. More and more, over these next few years, it's going to become like less and less necessary. So you won't need so many dollars in the middle. You'll be able to just use your cryptocurrencies or do whatever. But yeah, what he was describing is dollars are best used as a transitory sort of mechanism to transfer value from your investments. What I would buy right now, if I had some extra cash.
How would you do something that how Ozzy described it, or would you do something different in using your silver?
In using my silver? I mean, it depends. You always want to try to time the market. It depends how aggressive you want to be, what your risk is. He seems very good at it. He did what you want to do. He bought low and then he sold high. My silver, I will hold. I think that there's a good chance that silver will actually go 1-to-1 with gold. As crazy as that sounds, silver will at least go, I think, 10-to-1. If you look at like the historical average, silver should be much higher compared to gold than where it is right now. The historical average is like 7-to-1. We'll probably sell some silver when it hits that historical, like maybe half when it hits that historical average, and then sell the rest when it hits 1-to-1 with gold. Silver is going to go 1-to-1 with gold mostly because of industrial usage. So silver has a lot of industrial usage. We use it in flat screen TVs. We use it in our smartphones. We use it for all these sorts of electronics. And I think there's also new technologies that are around the corner. They're going to be using a lot of silver. Well, silver will be in very, very high demand.
Well, there's also another thing I would like to add. Sorry if I interrupted. Silver is just as expensive to mine as gold.
Right.
And at $16, it's not being mined. And one more other thing I would like to add. Silver's all-time high is $52. It's at $16 right now. Right. But 1-to-1, let me tell you something. I own 1,000 ounces. If it goes to 1-to-1, I'm gonna buy you a gift there, Luke.
Okay. Yeah. I think the 1-to-1 won't last longer than a couple years, but I do think eventually it'll probably hit close to 1-to-1. I think there's evidence they'll probably have new mining technologies where they'll be able to mine it a lot more efficiently. But I I think there's a lot less silver and a lot more gold than a lot of people think. But yeah, I mean, I use silver mostly as an investment, so I will sell it when I think the price is right, just like Ozzy did with his gold and when he bought the apartment. That's kind of what you want to do. But I won't really, silver, especially as the markets collapse and stuff. Silver and gold won't really be able to use it with money, so you have to use it as an investment. So I'll sell my silver when I think it gets in a bubble.
Here's what a lot of people need to learn. In the way our world works, stock market is opposite of gold and precious metals. Like, for example, stock market properties are on one side, crypto and gold and silver, palladium, platinum is on one side. They cannot both be up. They have it's a what do they call that ride? That thing, the cart? Yeah. So it goes like this. So I play the game because I have time. A lot of investors, they don't give a fuck. They just want to make 5-6% a year. Where I can make 100% over 5 years or 10 years or 7 years, whatever, because I put all my if I put all my eggs on property and it crashes, I'm fucked. So when properties and stocks are high, I buy what's low, which is gold and crypto. When the tide turns and it's high, I sell all this and I buy on this side. And then it's going to turn again. That's how the world works. Every 7 to 10 years, we have a crash. We go into a recession, deep reset, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's a cycle. It's got to happen. And the reason why, because the money has to stay recycling. It has to stay. There's got to be new millionaires made. The old millionaires got to go. All the dumb, smart. I know that doesn't go together, but a lot of rich people are smart on the way they got rich, but are dumb in general on investing. So they'll keep all their eggs in one basket, and when the crash happens, they go down with it. Where when crashes happen, in the 09 crash, I bought an RV, I bought 2 cars. I was buying because I played the game right. Where everybody else, when the economy dives, they fucking go broke. I play it different. And I try to teach in my videos that everything that you learn, everything that you see on the mainstream media is a pile of shit. Go ahead. Just had to throw that in.
All right, Ozzy. I have another question because I don't own any gold or any silver. I'm on the other extreme where I just own crypto, and most of it is in Bitcoin. And so, I have to admit I've enjoyed a lot of appreciation in that particular asset. But why can't you just take the gold, Ozzy, or Luke, or in your case silver? Why can't you just take your precious metals and just buy the other asset? Why do you have to convert it to a currency?
Okay, can I answer that first?
It just gets most people aren't going to accept it. If you want to buy a property from someone, how many people do you know will take silver as payment for a piece of property?
All right, go ahead, Ozzy. You're gonna have to answer a second now.
Okay, well, if I understood your question is why don't we take all our precious metals and put it into crypto? Is that what your question is, or
no? Why? When you explained to me how you sold your gold for cash and then used the cash to buy the house, and then vice versa, went back to sold your house and to cash and then back to gold again. Why not just skip the cash part? Why don't you just take your gold and just buy a house?
Oh, because the escrow company doesn't take gold. That's I mean, not you got to understand the escrows and all that. They only take fiat, bro. I mean, I wish I could just take 6 ounces of gold and buy a piece of property, or I wish I could send 18 Bitcoin and buy a shopping center. But sooner or later, as fiat deteriorates, which it is slowly, you're gonna have more channels of payment than there is right now, because the dollar is not gonna stay king forever at the rate it's printing. You said it yesterday best, bro. United States does one thing good. It's the best in the world, and that's printing money.
Well, I didn't say it that way. What I was saying, what I was really saying was that Americans, like people of America,
Mhm.
only do one thing. Really, they export one thing, and that's U.S. dollars. Out of all the things that they have.
Well, the reason why we can export so much is because we print a lot. And you know what? And every country in the world has something that's behind their money. Like, for example, Jordan has their gold. Syria has their gold. Every country has their gold, or they have something. All the United States has the United States military industrial complex defending their money. We're not gold backed. We're not nothing backed. We're petroleum backed. And if you ever try to change buying petroleum from dollars, you will start getting missiles rained upon you. It'll start raining missiles. Ask Gaddafi. Ask Saddam Hussein. You try to change your dollars to euro when you sell your petroleum and see what happens to you.
Well, that's only going to last so long as well, because there's only a finite supply of petroleum. So I don't know how long that's going to last. But let me go back to Luke. I'm sorry. What was that, Ozzy?
I said we've already reached the peak.
We've already reached the peak. Maybe we never know. So let me get back to Luke here. Let's move on to let's just talk about Ethereum, because when I first watched your channel, you were talking about Ethereum. Tell us how you feel about Ethereum, how you got into that, and then we'll get on to what you do, because we had some audience wondering what the hell does this kid do. So maybe we'll get onto that a little bit later at the end of a little bit later. So go ahead.
Well, I was buying Bitcoin, and I was researching other cryptocurrencies, and I longer to understand Ethereum definitely than Bitcoin. And if you think you understand Bitcoin, like, just try to explain Bitcoin to someone. Don't try to explain Ethereum to someone. It's like a whole different layer of, you know what I mean? So I would say that Ethereum actually took me longer to understand than Bitcoin, even though I already understood like blockchain. And there's just a lot of information on the internet, and it's hard to know sometimes who's telling the truth, who's not. So you read some sources like Ethereum's a scam coin, Vitalik's a scam artist, Vitalik Buterin, who's like the creator and maintainer of Bitcoin, Ethereum. They say it can't work. Smart contracts have no real world use cases. And then you read the other side. Ethereum's amazing. It's the best thing since sliced bread. It's going to destroy Bitcoin. Bitcoin's now outdated. Space and Ethereum's Facebook. The truth is somewhere in between. And then what I've come to the realization is that the blockchains can just be basically, they're programmed to be good at certain things. So Bitcoin is good right now at store of wealth. To use for most payments, the blockchain's too bloated. And so Bitcoin, how it's designed right now, Bitcoin's very, very safe. It's very decentralized. It has a lot of mining power behind it. It's limited in nature. And so right now, Bitcoin is the crypto store of wealth. It's like crypto gold. Okay. Ethereum is a little bit more like a decentralized computer. And so Ethereum is basically a platform where you can burn ether, you spend ether in order to run decentralized code. Okay, so you can take any computer code, any program, and you can run it on the Ethereum network, and no one can stop you from running it. Decentralized, and then you can basically have that code execute on the Ethereum network in return for paying ether. Okay, so if ether is not quite as good as a store of value because it has more inflation than Bitcoin. Its inflation is not set in stone like Bitcoin, but it's more programmable. It's more flexible than Bitcoin at the same time. So it's not quite as safe and secure, but it's more flexible. So you can run what are called smart contracts. And Ozzy could have a contract between me and him. We put in Ethereum as the collateral, and then the code runs and it executes. Okay. and no one can stop it, and it just runs automatically on the network. Okay, so that's basically what Ethereum is. You kind of think of like a decentralized computer. Okay, and then you're using Ether to run whatever program you want on the network. And I think it's, Ethereum has some very powerful use cases. I don't think Ethereum will really be used as money. I think Bitcoin and Litecoin are just better designed for money, and they'll probably be used more for money. And I think Ethereum will be mostly used for things like the smart contracts and for like initial coin offerings. So Ethereum is really good at like basically accumulating capital for like new projects, and so you can make you can basically publish your idea to the Ethereum blockchain. If people like it, they can send you Ethereum into a smart contract, and you can basically have capital investment into your business idea.
Well, what do you think about what do you think about Ethereum now after the SEC open letter stating that the DAO was a security, and kind of giving a warning to any new ICOs that are coming out, and also even exchanges, because a lot of what's been propelling Ethereum is these ICOs and the exchanges listing them to be traded, because the idea is for like you and I or anybody to you get Ethereum, whether you buy it with cash or your Bitcoin, and then you purchase the ICOs with your Ethereum. But if they never list it, right? Because if people are expecting some kind of return or some increased value of these tokens, and the exchanges say, well, this is all of a sudden these are securities, and the exchanges won't list them because they're not, a regulated exchange. What's going to happen to that market? Because and I also feel like a lot of people who are into Ethereum or are doing these ICOs, they're kind of blinding themselves or ignoring this open letter, and they're just continuing on with more ICOs. I think they're almost testing the waters here, despite the warnings.
Well, the governments can only stop certain things, so you have to realize what they can stop, what they can regulate, and when they can't regulate. They can't regulate exchange because exchanges now can be decentralized, and so no one can stop me or you.
Which ones? Which exchange are you talking about?
There's lots of them. Shapeshift is decentralized.
Well, they have an office somewhere, and if they're
but there's other ones.
If they're trading like these securities with any U.S. person, they can.
But there's other ones. Ether Delta is the one I use that most people use to buy Ethereum type tokens.
Is there somebody running that?
Let me mute my phone.
Okay.
So Ether, have you guys ever used Ether Delta?
No, I don't have any Ether, but is somebody running that, or somebody's got to run that, right?
Yeah, but no one knows. It's not run. It's open source. You can't really stop open source code, and it runs on the Ethereum network, so it's unstoppable. And so you can't stop exchange of tokens. So I want to say that first.
Well, because you can't stop exchange of tokens, but you can stop the exchanges, like who are listing them, right? Like if you and me got some tokens, or whether you use Ether,
because there's
a filter, that's you're trading token for token, right?
Right.
All right. So somebody could list it. So it's not. I could kind of see that kind of decentralized exchange, but that's not what's driving the price. What's driving the price are these other exchanges that are listing these ICO tokens.
Well, they would. They would just drive the money into more decentralized exchanges. Like Ether Delta has a lot of liquidity now. It's building and building, and so decentralized exchanges are the future. Most exchanges in the future will happen on decentralized exchanges. Now what the SEC can stop and regulate, and you could make the argument that they need to be regulated, are like these ICOs, because these are companies, and in order for people to invest in your company, you need to show your face and tell people what you're about and things like that. And they're people, and people can be regulated. Code can't be regulated, but people can be regulated. And so I do think we're going to see more ICO regulation come down the pipeline, and I think they're going to probably crack down on it here in America. But you can make the argument it needs to be regulated, but that's also a more philosophical argument.
Well, I think
whether you should have any
it already
regulation or not.
determined that with its letter, basically saying the DAO was a security. And if you look at all the other ICOs, essentially they were just DAOs for the most part. They were fundraising.
Well, some of them are security, some of them are not. They're just labeling everything a security. But if you look into like how a lot of the businesses work, a lot of them aren't actually security. Some of them are securities, some of them aren't. And you also have to realize this is just the first sort of step. They don't really understand crypto. They don't really understand what some of them are, if they're security or not. So they have to look deeper into them. But I do think that they will pass more legislation and look deeper into it. And I do think more regulation is coming down the pipeline, which might not be a bad thing because a lot of them are scams, and a lot of them need to be regulated. But that's sort of my thoughts on it. It's like you can't regulate the exchange. Anyone can buy or sell tokens, and that's unstoppable.
Well, the actual exchange of tokens, like you and me exchanging tokens, yes, you can't stop that. But right. I do think you can stop exchanges like Poloniex, like Kraken, like Coinbase.
Well, some of them are in other countries, so can the U.S. stop,
yes.
an exchange based in?
If any U.S. person buys these tokens, and so essentially they almost become worthless unless you could find somebody in a peer-to-peer market. In a peer-to-peer market, you can probably trade all you want, but that almost makes it very difficult.
Right. Well, crypto is
illiquid markets.
Right, but crypto is a peer-to-peer market. And over the next few years, we will see much more peer-to-peer trading of cryptos.
Well, that's actually what I do. I trade peer-to-peer, but it's only Bitcoin. I have not found anybody to trade Ethereum or Litecoin or Monero. So with these ICOs, they're even more rare. I mean, I've never heard of anybody trading any of these ICO tokens outside the exchanges. They're all traded in some form of exchange, like Cryptopia, Bittrex.
But you can use your Bitcoin to buy any crypto, right? You can use Shapeshift with a VPN, hide your IP address, and no one can stop you from buying Ethereum with Bitcoin.
Yeah, I guess you can if you want to avoid it. If you want to avoid all that, you can. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is, nobody's gonna buy. I have not ever bought or sold with my hard-earned paper cash any Ethereum, any Monero, any Litecoin. It's only been Bitcoin. So everyone has to eventually get out, and unless that market changes, because otherwise you're all just trading a token. You're trading wooden nickels or Chuck E. Cheese tokens. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, you have to find another buyer to buy these. And typically, the exit is Bitcoin, and then people use Bitcoin to go into peer-to-peer markets to get cash. Or there's some markets where you can actually buy what you want, like a house, a property, a car. And so
you're right. There's a lot more liquidity in Bitcoin right now, and so Bitcoin has become the transitory mechanism. So once you're in Bitcoin, you can get into any crypto you want, and then to get out of crypto, you usually have to go through Bitcoin. You are right.
Yeah. So when these exchanges, which most of these ICO tokens and pretty much 100% of Ether is now going to be, I guess, regulated in some ways, I think it's going to be harder. It could be harder. That's just my opinion. But tell the audience some of the ICOs that you've been involved in, and what you think about them.
I like okay, first of all, you have to realize is this: crypto is the Wild West. It really is, and so there are a lot of scams there, and so you have to be pretty careful. There's a lot of phishing attempts, so people will change the URL of whatever wallet you're going to by one value, and so you go to the wrong website, and then it steals your private keys, and the website looks the exact same as the website you were trying to go to. There's ICOs, from wherever, and they just take your coin, your money, and just run away with it. And so you have to be careful. That's the first thing I want to say is that crypto is literally the Wild West. No one's gonna cry for you if you lose your money, and there's no authority that can get you your money back. You know, this is all at your own risk. But yeah, but if you look at the right sources and you read a lot about different projects and stuff, there's some that really do shine, I believe. Most of them won't. I'm not a big fan of things like Golem and these other sort of platforms. I don't think that people get excited for, like, instance, decentralized computing, which is what Golem is. The blockchain is not efficient at certain things. It's not efficient to have decentralized computing power on a blockchain. And so I think that business model will fail. I think also these storage coins are going to fail. You have all these coins coming out now where you store your files on the blockchain. A blockchain is not designed to store your files on the cloud. It's not nearly efficient enough, especially when you can buy 10 gigabyte hard drives for however cheap now. Okay, business models will also fail. Also, a lot of things will get absorbed into the main ones. We're talking about software here. So Bitcoin is upgradable. Ethereum is upgradable. Litecoin is upgradable. And so a lot of these upgrades are going to get put into the major coins. Okay, so you have to realize that as well. So even if you ride it for a while, eventually a lot of those upgrades will get merged into the major ones, and then they'll become pointless. So that's another thing you have to realize. But that being said, I do think there are a couple of gems. One that I like is one called Populous. So if you guys are watching this, I would look into Cliff High. His website is Half Past Human, and his YouTube channel, I think, is just Cliff High. And if you just watch some of his videos, he's a very, very smart man. He's one of the smartest men I've ever seen talk. And you can hear it in the way he talks about things. He's a computer programmer, and he really understands a lot of the principles behind programming and how programming works, and whether or not companies have good code or bad code. But he also understands a lot about business and whether these companies actually have good business models. But I have only, besides Bitcoin and the major players like Litecoin, I've only invested in two sort of like what you call tokens. One is Populous. So this is basically a platform to reduce costs of invoicing. It's like more of like a peer-to-peer sort of like lending market. And then the other one I really like is Veritasium. Okay. The audience also has to realize that from my investment, I come a little bit from a different standpoint. And so with things even like Veritasium, I just feel that it's the truth. I don't know if that makes sense to the audience or not, but I don't even understand a lot of the technicals behind Veritasium. All I know is that when I sort of scan the people that talk about Veritasium, or into the project and who runs the project, and I watch the way he talks, his body language, and the way he holds himself, and things like that. I just kind of receive intuition that Veritasium is going to be really big. Veritasium is more like stock in a company, and then Reggie Middleton is building a peer-to-peer platform, and he's really trying to get.
Luke, are you there? Did we lose you? Hello, Luke? Ozzy, are you there? Ozzy, you're still on mute.
Yeah, I'm here, buddy.
Okay, I was just wondering if I froze or he. Looks like he's froze. Maybe it's just me.
I think he's frozen.
Okay, we'll wait for him to come back here.
Somebody's asking me about Litecoin's hash rate. I think the total network is 15 gigahashes per second, which is pretty good. Litecoin, you know, this fucking cash, Bitcoin Cash, I think is the biggest threat, not to Bitcoin. I think it's to Litecoin, to be honest with you, because Litecoin was the silver to gold was what Litecoin was to Bitcoin, and then this fucking this fucking Bitcoin Cash comes along and sticks his dick into the whole fucking thing.
Man, you know, that kind of sucks he's dropped out because I'll try to answer some of the audience questions. Luke he's a nutritionist, healer. He takes samples of your hair and he measures the mineral, and based on that, he tells you, subscribes or gives you an idea of what minerals you should be taking to heal your body. And so apparently that's his main income. For those of you who didn't know, I know some of you were asking earlier.
I wanted to ask him, but the subject got changed too quick. What qualifications does he have for that?
Yeah, I eventually wanted to get that to at the end of it after we did our discussion here.
In case he,
but unfortunately he froze, you know. So I hope he comes back. Luke, if you're watching, please relog in and come on back, and so we can talk about that. So, but that was kind of interesting, and I figured maybe you would have some questions for him because I know health is a big part of your life now, and I've never heard of getting hair samples. I know minerals are good for you, but I don't know how minerals can heal. I'm sure it does heal you, but I don't know how certain minerals can specifically, heal for you. I thought the body. Oh, he's back. Excellent. I was trying to kill some time. Luke,
right.
Are you there?
I'm back.
All right. Thank you.
No worries.
All right. So let's get to the part where people wanted to know in the chat room what you did for a living. What exactly did you do? And so I kind of brought it up while you were gone to fill some dead air. Go ahead and tell them what you do for a living.
So what I do is people come to me. Sometimes it's for various things. Sometimes people just want to get healthier, or they have certain ailments, or they want to put their children on a program or whatnot. What I do is I have people mail in their hair to a lab, and then that lab basically gives me the results from their hair. So what they do is they cut a piece of their hair. The hair has it's basically like a tissue, right? So you would get similar results if you use a piece of skin or your fingernails or something like that. And basically, I get their mineral results from the lab, and then I look at their results and I go over it with them, and I set up a program for people. Okay. Basically, what I'm looking at is so the minerals actually correspond to glands in the body. So from the minerals, you actually tell a lot more than people realize, because the glands regulate the minerals in the tissues, right? So, for example, your adrenals, to a certain extent, regulate sodium in the tissues. So if you look at a sodium level, you can kind of see how well the adrenals are functioning at that point in time. If sodium is very low, you can see that the adrenals are probably not very active at this time. Or if they're too high, people are using their adrenals too much. Things like that, okay? And then I basically just design a diet program for people along with certain supplements to balance the biochemistry. Okay, so from the hair test, you can see basically with pretty good precision what minerals people need and what dosages. So I can see how much zinc someone needs, how much copper, what sort of B vitamins they need and what dosages, and things like that. I can see tendencies for a lot of things. Okay, so blood tests and things like that are very good, but a hair test is just a different sort of test. So a hair test won't tell you if you have cancer, right? If you get a blood test, you can see you have cancer cells in your body, you have cancer, for example, or something like that. A hair test is a much bigger picture. It's a much more of the overall state of health of the body, how well the adrenals are functioning, how well the thyroid is functioning, tendencies for disease, if you're in burnout or not, if you have a lot of deficiencies and major minerals, if you have a lot of toxicities. And then what's nice about the hair test is it takes away a lot of the guesswork, and we can see what works and what doesn't. Programs are basically based off the hair tests and what's helping people heal, okay? In my experience, people need, the most important food group is cooked vegetables, okay? Cooked vegetables are the most mineral dense food. And I can see that on the hair test because when people eat the cooked vegetables, their hair shifts the most. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So I
that
like
makes
cooked.
sense.
Right. So
And
it's a
so,
good
so
reference
people
point, right?
how do you find these people? Like, do they find
They
you?
come to me.
Are you recommended? Or and
Right.
how the qualifications
Yeah,
for
they come
this?
to me.
What does it take?
They come to me. Mostly they come through the YouTube channel. Okay. They also find me sometimes on other. I do podcasts with other people in the healing professions, and they find me that way. I am not a licensed doctor. I work as an unlicensed, basically an unlicensed nutritional consultant. So I don't have a license or anything like that. Um, so most people would argue that I don't have any qualifications. Most people, many people would say that, because I didn't go to medical school or anything like that. A lot of people would make that argument. I have studied the science for years and years now. I've been putting people on the program for about 5 years. I get very good results. I do understand, the science at I think quite a deep level, and I continue to get better at it. And practice makes perfect. So I'd say my main qualification is working with people for 5 years to overcome their ailments.
Okay, so that's not too bad. I mean, you're basically an un. I wouldn't say you need a license to be a nutritionist, right? Or anything. You're just giving advice, and you're getting samples of the hair, and then based on that, you're just seeing what you're getting. I guess a diagnosis of lack of nutrition, and you're saying, well, eat vegetables, but you don't really
Yeah,
say, you don't really say, hey, you need to take vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin A. You just say, hey, eat like some of these vegetables more, and some of these fruits, and whatever. And then do they come back, and you do another hair sample, and you basically ask if they feel better?
yeah, it's good to retest the hair about every 3 months. Um, the chemistry of the body will shift on a healing program. And so as the body shifts, you need to look at the chemistry again and sort of recalibrate where they're at and how the program needs to shift.
Okay. Okay.
And so diet's a big part of it. So the supplements are part of it. I'm taking certain supplements to help shift the chemistry. The diet's a big part of it. So I like cooked vegetables. I like animal protein a lot. Um, I think you should be eating animal protein once or twice a day. Um, I like whole grains. I don't like wheat. Wheat, unfortunately, seems to no longer be a very good food. I find that the problem today is not really gluten. Okay, sometimes gluten gets blamed, but in my experience, it's actually wheat. And so most people on my programs, if they heal enough, they can actually handle grains that contain gluten, like some oats or barley or rye. And but in most cases, people need to avoid wheat. Okay, even organic, most organic, like whole grain, sprouted wheat, whatever, most of it needs to be avoided. Unfortunately, wheat's just
Why
been
is
very
that? Why does
hybridized, and
wheat
it's
need to
somewhat
be
irritating.
avoided?
It seems
Why
to be
does
very
wheat need to be
irritating to the
avoided?
body. It seems to be very irritating to the bodies today. The main reason is because wheat has been very hybridized. So the wheat that we eat today no longer resembles what wheat used to be. I have had good results with inkhorn wheat. If you guys have heard of that, it's an ancient. Um, it's an older sort of wheat that's it's actually where wheat came from, and it's like the most like it's like the original wheat, and they still grow it in places in Europe. That's not been nearly as hybridized, and that wheat seems to be okay. Um, but yeah, the main reason why wheat needs to be avoided is because it's been so hybridized, basically, and it's irritating to the bodies.
Okay. All right. So
Um,
one of the audience members in the chat wanted to know what you did, so that kind of answers the quick question. Now that you're back, let me get back to the Cliff High thing, and you subscribe to his newsletter. How much of an influence is that newsletter on your selection of cryptocurrencies and ICOs?
It has a big effect because after reading his work, and if you read a lot of or watch a lot of his videos, I get a feel for the man that he is. You know, he's obviously very smart, and I think it's wise to you know, kind of at least take into account his opinion on a lot of these ICOs and stuff like that, and a lot of them are scams. And you know, he'll tell you if he thinks something's a scam. You know what I mean? He only likes a few of them. But you should make up your own mind at the same time. You know, learn about these coins. You know, process it in your own mind. But you know, he's made me a lot of money so far, and when I read these reports, he's been spot on. It's kind of crazy how spot on he is on sometimes. And so I do think there is something to it, the sort of methods that he utilizes.
Okay, how much of it do you think is the newsletter versus his what's he call it? Something linguistics? Is it computer linguistics or something that he calls it?
Yeah, it's predictive linguistics.
Yeah. How much of it is the newsletter, do you think? Because when you have like a lot of subscribers, and maybe Cliff High is doing some research or whatever he's doing, but when you have that many people who are subscribing to his newsletters and then they're acting on it, of course, wouldn't you think the cryptocurrencies or the ICOs that he picks out would be successful?
Yeah, that's true to an extent, but he also is really good at like predicting the Bitcoin prices and stuff like that. And can he really be manipulating the whole entire, you know, liquidity of Bitcoin or Ethereum or these bigger coins? You know, I don't think so.
Because I've had people comment in on YouTube what they think the price is going to be. I mean, to spite me, because I troll a lot when I was trolling Ethereum, and the price moved to that direction. And so you know, this market's really not that big. You know, it's literally not that big.
Right. Well, it's all part of the picture. You should be taking care of your own health, so you can be of clear mind, and you should be reading about all these coins for yourself. And Cliff High's data should just be one piece of the puzzle. You know, I don't use just Cliff High's data to base all of my. You know, I don't take his word as gospel, because it's not. He's just a man. He doesn't know the future. No one can know the future. But I do think he's a very smart man, and I do think that there's a lot of truth to the sort of, you know, reports that he puts out.
Okay, all right, because that's I've never heard of him until I got into the cryptocurrency space, because he didn't exist at all in my mind. And so all of a sudden, you know, when I see these videos, all of a sudden he's popping up everywhere. And I do remember the first time I heard of him, because he predicted the price of Bitcoin to go to $888.88. And when I looked at it, a lot of people were like, "Look at the price! It would, you know," and it did hover that it did hover around 888. You know, it wasn't exact, but when I look back at that, there's, you know, when I look back at the charts, there's nothing distinctive about 888. Matter of fact, what it did is it bounced around 888. It went below there, and then it went back up there, and it bounced around 888, and then went back up. So there was nothing special really about that number to tell me to buy at that price or sell at that price, because when I look back at it, it didn't mean anything. And sometimes I think it's because people read the newsletters and it's mentioned, right? It's in their mind. And sometimes you could be, you know, how can I say it? It's a crowd phenomenon, or a herd mentality. You know, you got to remember, like, he's putting out a newsletter and you're all reading it and you're all being influenced by it.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm sure confirmation bias is part of it, just like anything. But like I said, Cliff's data is just part of the bigger picture. I do recommend that you look into it, just because, not even so much because of his predictive linguistics, trying to predict the future, just because of his technical knowledge. You know, people forget, you know, he's a very, very good programmer. he really knows what he's talking about when it comes to computer programming and how computer programming works. And so he's able to spot a lot of these coins that just won't work because the blockchain's not efficient enough, or he just knows they're scams and things like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's all part of the bigger picture. I don't think that you should just take his word as gospel and take all your money and buy, you know, whatever initial coin offering that might be mentioned in the report. You know what I mean? And he's pretty careful about saying that as well, that, you know, about being very careful and that he's wrong a lot of the times. He's been wrong about silver for years. You know, he was writing years and years ago how silver was going to break out, and it never did. What can make the argument is because silver is so manipulated. But, you know, you also have to keep in mind, you know, he's also been recommending Bitcoin since when it almost first came out. And so he was smart enough to realize, you know, the power of Bitcoin.
Well, here's the thing is, I wonder how much Bitcoin he really has, because if he's very good at predictive linguistics, you would think that he would have bought all of the Bitcoin in the world. He would have sold his shirt, his property, his car, and just bought Bitcoin because it's at an all-time high now.
I'm sure he has plenty of Bitcoin.
But what I heard was he bought into a lot of Veritasium and he sold out and bought a house.
No, that was another person.
Oh, that was another person? Okay. I thought he actually bought a house as well.
No, that was Jason.
So Jason also sold out of Veritasium and bought a house. But I also heard from someone who keeps up with Cliff High that he also sold out of Veritasium and bought a house.
Yeah, people take profits. Veritasium went up a lot in a little amount of time, and so many people took profits and bought assets.
How can you sell Veritasium or trade it? And there's no exchange. There's only one exchange for it.
Well, you can sell it on Ether Delta for Ethereum.
Yeah, they're dumping it on Ether Delta and then cashing out on with Ether.
Yeah, the buying and selling occurs on Ether Delta. So if you have Veritasium goes up a lot, you can sell it for Ethereum on Ether Delta, and then sell your Ethereum for fiat on Coinbase or Gemini or any of these exchanges.
Okay, all right. I just find it kind of weird. The guy talks. He's in a predictive linguistics news. He writes a predictive linguistics newsletter. He talks about Bitcoin. I mean, I figure if I was him and he really like knew his shit, like he would like sell everything to buy Bitcoin, and he would. I mean, he would be a fucking billionaire by now. He would stop writing that newsletter and just like say goodbye. You know, I'm done. But instead, he pumps Veritasium and then dumps it and then buys a house.
I don't know how much Veritasium. Well, he never said that he sold Veritasium. You're thinking of Jason at 4.
Okay, I heard from another YouTuber who keeps up with it. But yes, I also know that Jay Snip also did it. But even then, you would Jay Snip, who listens to Cliff High a lot, would sell all his stuff, right? Quit his job and just dump everything into Bitcoin. And he too would have been like a billionaire.
Well, he has made a lot of money with the cryptocurrencies. I'm not sure what your point is.
Okay. Well, what I'm saying is if Bitcoin was like the thing, and one of the things he recommended, I was trying to say that it would make a lot of sense that if he was very good at it, he would also would have told everybody just buy Bitcoin, and what's the date? It's August 7th. It would break all-time highs of like 3,400. But was that in the report at any time? Like
he does.
I don't subscribe to it, but
he does tell people to buy Bitcoin. I'm not sure what your point is.
Okay, I tell people to buy Bitcoin too, but I'm not that good at predicting. Like I guess Cliff High. It just seems weird that if he really knew, then he would sell everything and buy Bitcoin, and he would know that the price would just go up, and he would stop writing newsletters and just profit for himself, and that would be his last newsletter that you would ever need to buy.
Cliff High doesn't have to work. He does the newsletters because he enjoys them. Yeah, he has Fuck You Bunny. He could just fuck off for the rest of his life if he wanted to.
Well, yeah. Well, if he does, I'm wondering why he didn't just buy a lot of Bitcoin and just live his life out.
He did. He did buy a lot of Bitcoin. He can live his life out. You know, life sometimes work gives life people purpose. Like, well, I can't imagine. I'm going to work even when I'm, a crypto millionaire. That's, I mean, life, he likes to work. He likes to send out these newsletters and help people out. That's his
Okay,
choice.
all right. But well, here's another thing. I'm not trying to criticize. It's just I'm a little doubtful about it. I don't subscribe to the newsletter, so that's why I'm asking these questions.
Right.
But why would he charge for the newsletter? Why don't he just give it out for free if he has a
$99.
lot of fuck you money?
Right.
If he wants to help people,
it's his right to charge that much. With how much money people are making off of it, I don't think it's that much money.
James Bond, you're asking him like he's his attorney. He's just
well, yeah, I know. I'm just being critical. I'm being James Bond, the semi kind of troll, because I've heard Cliff I, and I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. And he recommends a lot of ICOs and altcoins, which I'm sure he has good intentions on making everybody rich, but sometimes I feel like the newsletter is to promote them. And what
right to be
fair, you never know if he's getting a piece of the pie
because people buy into them, and when people buy into it goes up. So everybody gets rich until everybody's a winner until you're a loser.
Yeah, but you can say the same thing about Bitcoin, right? Everyone, people, there's chains on like the FUD ladder, right? So you have people like Peter Schiff who are like they're like gold and silver maximalists, and he'll never come around on Bitcoin. Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. It'll go, or who's another guy? Oh, the Health Ranger who makes anti-Bitcoin videos, right? And then he says, Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. It'll never be used as money. It's just in the bubble. Bitcoin's going to go down as soon as people sell it, right? That's like one ring of the ladder. The next ring of the ladder is like Bitcoin maximalists, where like Ethereum's a shit coin. Ethereum has no use case. And then there's like one more rung where it's like all these altcoins have no use cases, and anything that's not like Bitcoin or Ethereum is definitely a scam coin or stuff. And the truth is somewhere between, a lot of this. And so Cliff I is just another point of data. To be fair, he is very critical of a lot of coins that people like on Reddit and these places are like really like down for, like a lot of those distributed computing ones or decentralized storage ones, or like smaller coins. He does write a lot about how he thinks that they won't last and how they will fail. And there is some of what you're talking about. Some of it is confirmation bias, right? If a lot of people buy his Webbot report and they all buy into an ICO, that ICO is going to go up because of that bias, and they'll all think they're right. There is some of that going on. Make no mistake about it. But I do think that Cliff I is pretty genuine, and I think he's a very smart man. And I do take a lot of his wisdom into account the way that I hear him speak. You have to understand that I'm also coming from a different standpoint with a lot of things. I bet a lot of my money on the jockey. You know what I mean? So when I watch videos of Cliff I and I hear him talk and the way he talks, my intuition is that he knows for the most part what he's talking about. He's coming across genuine. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that, and if he wanted to monetize it, writing a newsletter and charging people would be a good way. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just being me, and I'm questioning everything. And I don't subscribe to the newsletter, and so here's just my chance to ask someone who has, and ask some serious questions about it.
Right.
And
right.
I want to thank you for answering. But I've never heard of Cliff I until I got into Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden I don't know when, but it's almost been like only about ever since I got into Bitcoin. And then he shows up in my feed, and then other people talk about him, and I think it could be a little, in my opinion, just a little misleading, because everybody reads the newsletter. It says buy Veritasium, right? Veritasium is highly recommended, and then everybody buys Veritasium, and then you see people cashing out of Veritasium to buy a house. So you have to look at it without the bias and say, well, they're pumping a coin and they're cashing out, and of course everyone's a winner when they all buy in, but you're a winner until you're a loser with the last person holding the bag. So that's just a point that I'm trying to make. But I don't know Cliff High, if he's watching. I wish he could come on this show and then kind of like to have a better understanding of his predictive linguistics computer. I don't know what it is, but that's just me. I'm just highly critical. So, anyways, I see Ozzy has left the building, and so he must have dropped out. Anyways, this is probably going to conclude the episode. Luke, tell everyone where they can find you.
So the website is deephealingspace.com. And then on the YouTube, you can just type in Deep Healing Space. And then on the website and the YouTube channel, there's ways to contact me. You can shoot me an email. If you want to know about a program or more about what I do. And yeah, it was nice talking to you, James. I love crypto, and it's going to change the world. And I think that it's going to be really good for society as we transition. The old system is dying. The banks, the Western nations are so far in debt, they can't recover. And it's going to be, I really truly feel it's going to be a tough couple years for a lot of people. Not everyone is as smart as us three. Most, a lot of people out there, their money's in their pensions and their IRAs. And that money is going away, and there's going to be a lot of struggling for a lot of people. But in the end, good will come out of it. We're going to a more, trust-based system built on cryptocurrencies, and a lot of the old systems are going to go away, and these better systems will be in their place. And there's going to be a lot more freedom, I think, for people. There's going to be a lot more prosperity after it's all said and done.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Luke. That was wonderful. And all your information, your Twitter, your website. What else do you have? I think you have a Facebook. You have quite a few things. All those are in the notes section below if anybody wants to contact you. And thank you for being on the show. Ozzy, any closing words or any statements that?
It was wonderful. Thank you for inviting me, Luke. It was a pleasure to meet you, and big thank you, big shout out to all our viewers. Thank you guys so much for always being here every day.
All right, and this concludes this episode. This concludes this episode of James Bond Bitcoin Live. Stay tuned for the next episode. Will be I believe Wednesday. It's typically Wednesdays and Sundays, but every now and then a guest can't make those time frames, so we have special appearances. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.